The Circular Momentum Show, the premier podcast and information source for leaders in the IT asset disposition and IT reseller community. With a focus on growth strategies, IT lifecycle services, and making sustainability profitable and beneficial to the environment.
Welcome to the Circular Show, the premier strategy and news source for the ITAD and IT reseller industries. I'm your host, Pete Paisley, and each episode we bring you conversations with industry leaders who are transforming the business. You know, I was talking to an ITAD owner about a year ago, really sharp guy, been in the business for probably 15 years, and he told me something that just stuck with me. He said, "Pete, I used to know the value of every device that came through my door. Now, the market moves too fast. I feel like I'm flying blind half the time." This comment really resonated with me because I do hear this constantly, and I felt it myself in my years in the industry. The ITAD space has gotten incredibly complex. We're not just dealing with laptops and desktops anymore. We've got servers, storage arrays, networking equipment, mobile devices, all with different configurations, market demands, and prices that can swing considerably from week to week or month to month. And if you're still relying on Excel spreadsheets and that one person on your team who just knows the market, well, you're taking on a lot of risk. Today, we're diving deep into a topic I believe is absolutely foundational to the future of successful ITAD operations: AI-powered fair market value pricing tools. And I'm thrilled to have a guest with us who's been at the forefront of this technology revolution. First, let's hear from one of our sponsors.
Here's what we often hear. We don't need ISO or other certifications right now, or our clients aren't asking for it. Just because it's not needed today doesn't mean it won't be required tomorrow. Certifications usually take 7 to 16 weeks to complete. That's 2 to 4 months. If a client suddenly requires it, waiting isn't an option. These certifications help you qualify faster for global and OEM contracts. Keeps your operations audit ready all year. Cuts internal waste and rework. Builds trust with buyers before price is even discussed. For example, a U.S. plastics and machinery manufacturer invested $8,000 in ISO 9001 plus ISO 14001. The next quarter, they qualified for 2 OEM contracts worth $240,000. Another firm in the same space skipped certification and couldn't even bid. ISO isn't an expense. It's proof you're ready when opportunity knocks. Don't wait for a client to demand it be the one already certified. Book your free consultation today with MG Environmental Consulting.
To the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Pete. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. I love a good origin story. Tell us a little bit about your background and how that led to Pyxtech.
Sure, Pete. Thank you. I've really spent about my entire 35-plus year career in supply chain and reverse logistics. Early on, I went through Six Sigma Black Belt training, and that really hardwired me to the idea of how I work. You know, don't jump to conclusions. You have to make data decisions based on data. You need to collect clean, unbiased data. And about 10 to 12 years ago, I started to notice a real gap within the ITAD. You know, people were doing what is really very complicated pricing and risk analysis, buying and selling used tech assets, but mostly leveraging Excel, you know, with a lot of gut feel, tribal knowledge layered on top. And I realized these are much harder problems than they look. You're trying to price in volatility, condition of the different assets, configuration, a lot of assumptions go into it, market timing, how the market's going to change. And if you get it wrong, you take some real financial hits. So when I was working inside an ITAD company, I reached back out to some of my former colleagues who I had known. They had a lot of deep experience in high-end analytics and just data science. And we started experimenting and applying real data science and AI to pricing. Instead of just relying on rudimentary analytics and historical sales numbers and tribal knowledge, these early experiments are what ultimately evolved into Pyxtech, and using advanced data models to take the bias out, take the guesswork out, and establish real unbiased fair market value to help our customers manage the financial risk with much more intelligence.
So, John, let's start with the big picture. When you talk to ITAD owners and investors today, what's the number one thing they're asking for?
It's predictability, Pete, hands down. They want to know their business can scale without adding proportional headcount. They want to know their margins are protected. They want automation that actually works. And here's the thing, you can't automate what you can't measure accurately. That's where FMV pricing intelligence becomes absolutely critical.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've all been there, right? You get a pallet of mixed equipment and someone's got to figure out what it's worth. Walk me through what that process looked like traditionally before AI tools came into the picture.
Man, it was painful. You'd have someone, usually your most experienced person, spending hours on eBay, checking completed listings, calling brokers for quotes, maybe Googling around to see what's similar items sold for. And here's the problem. That person is making judgment calls based on incomplete information. Maybe they're having a good day and they're optimistic. Maybe they're stressed and they lowball everything. There's bias built into the system.
I think that can be expensive, right? Not just in terms of time, but in terms of risk.
Exactly. We've seen ITAD companies make some really painful mistakes. Overpaying for inbound material because they didn't have good market intelligence, or leaving money on the table on the outbound side by underpricing assets. When your margins are already tight, a few deals like that can really hurt the business and shake confidence in the pricing process. You can't scale your business hoping to get it right.
Yeah, so that's the pain point. I know there are a few different approaches to solving this problem. Some companies use real-time scraping tools that pull data from online marketplaces. How is the AI-based approach different?
Great question, Pete. A lot of tools scraping live listings from marketplaces, and that's only one noisy slice of the picture. What we do at Pyxtech is start with a much broader base of data: online marketplaces, wholesale and auction data, customer sales histories, and other market signals, and then use our own models to normalize for configuration, condition, and channel. From there, we derive an objective fair market value that reflects how the market is actually behaving, not just what people are asking. Then we can map the FMV to realistic e-commerce price points, wholesale buy prices, different product conditions. There's both science and applied art in that process. The science is the data and modeling, and the art is the domain expertise that makes the output usable in the real world.
I think that's a huge difference. I imagine that level of accuracy opens up a lot of possibilities for how iTech companies can use the data.
Absolutely, Pete. Once you have FMV you can trust, it becomes a reference point for everything else. On the front end, it guides what you're willing to pay so you don't overbuy. In the middle, it helps you decide whether to repair, harvest for parts, or wholesale an asset. On the back end, it sets realistic price bands for e-commerce and wholesale so you're not guessing. And because it's a benchmark, it also makes it much easier to structure programs and SLAs with OEMs and enterprise clients around something both sides see as objective.
Okay, let's get into the practical applications. I want to walk through the different ways iTech companies can implement FMV tools. So let's start with the most obvious one, inbound asset valuation. When material comes through the door, how does an FMV tool change that process?
You know, Pete, when material comes in today, a lot of teams are still doing manual lookups and gut check pricing. With an FMV tool, that changes completely. You can scan a model or upload a list, and in seconds, you get an objective band based on current market data, plus a recommended buy range that already accounts for your target margin and risk. That does two big things. It stops you from overpaying on weak lots and gives you the confidence to move fast on the good ones. And because the numbers are grounded in consistent benchmarks, negotiations with customers become more transparent, repeatable, and scalable.
Yeah, I'm sure that's very helpful. So it's not just about internal efficiencies, it's actually a sales tool.
Exactly. It becomes a powerful sales tool, not just an ops tool. When you're bidding on new business, you're not just guessing at buy prices. You're working from a clear FMV band and a calculated offer range that already bakes in margin, risk, and channel strategy. That means you can quote faster, defend your pricing with data, and walk away from deals that don't make sense because you know your economics before you commit.
Yeah. So what about the downstream side? How does the FMB intelligence help with sales there?
On the outbound side, F&B lets you get intentional about every channel. If you're selling wholesale, you can set prices that are competitive but still protect your spread. If you're selling D2C or through a retail partner, you can tune a different price band for that channel off the same F&V anchor. And then there's the teardown question. Do you sell this unit as whole or do you break it down into the parts and parse it out that way? Because we model at the BOM and component level, the tool can even show when a device is worth more than its discrete parts versus the complete system, and all based on current market conditions. That turns what used to be a gut call into a data-driven decision.
Yeah, and that takes up the level of sophistication, doesn't it? So you're making real-time decisions about how to process material based on market intelligence.
And that naturally leads to routing optimization or smart routing. Once you know how realistic the FMV and channel spreads are, you can decide in real time whether an asset should be refurbished, harvested for parts, pushed to wholesale, or just recycled. Over time, those rules become more repeatable playbook that the system can apply automatically. So more of your material ends up with the highest value path instead of being treated the same.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about something that I think is really exciting, and that would be building new service offerings around this. Once you have this FMV intelligence integrated into your systems, what new revenue streams can an ITAD company create?
This is my favorite part, Pete, because it's where ITAD companies can really move up the value chain. One big opportunity is modern trade-in programs. Once you have reliable FMV, you can offer predictable data-backed trade-in values to enterprises. So they know what their fleets are likely worth at refresh. And then that lets you stand behind guaranteed or banded traded-in offers across laptops, mobile devices, even data center, racks, and servers. And bundle those programs with your existing IT asset management and disposition services to create stickier, higher value relationships.
Yeah, I love that. So instead of just being the company that hauls away old equipment, you're becoming more of a strategic partner in their IT lifecycle management.
A good example is device as a service built on certified pre-owned hardware, instead of just hauling away old kit at the end of its life. You're helping the customer design a predictable circular device program from day one. With FMV intelligence, you can model residual values up front. You can predict future residual values, set realistic trade-in bands, and translate that into a simpler per month per device price. Then you fulfill that with CPO inventory you already understand and can value precisely. Suddenly, you're not just the recycler at the end, but a partner powering their DAS and refresh strategy.
Yeah, it's really smart because if you can get there, now you're competing with the big brands and the biggest players on the planet. You're turning refurbished sales from a commodity business into value-added service or device as a service, really.
Right. And the third opportunity is extended warranty and maintenance offerings. When you have the complete spare part cost against the entire bill of materials, against the whole asset, you can create complex replacement part cost models. Combine that with predicting annual failure rates, you can start to offer return to depot repair service offerings, advanced exchange programs, and even on-site maintenance contracts.
Yeah, and those are the high margin services that ITAD companies should be aiming for in the future.
And these all create recurring revenue streams, which investors love. You're not just moving boxes, you're providing comprehensive IT lifecycle services.
All right. So we've talked about all these amazing ways to use FMV tools in an ITAD's business, but I know implementation can sometimes be a challenge. What's your recommendation for how ITAD should approach rolling this out?
I always start suggesting with something simple, basic, right? SaaS-based, not a massive transformation project that's a heavy lift. Step one is to plug in FMV as an objective price layer for inbound and outbound deals. Setting up your buyers and sales reps with a browser-based tool or light integration where they can upload a list, get accurate pricing on the model instantly, look at an FMV band and recommend the buy-sell range. You're really just replacing that manual heavy lift research and ad hoc spreadsheets that are biased with consistent benchmark. It's easy to deploy, doesn't require changing your core systems on day one, and delivers quick, high-value wins in the form of better bids, cleaner margins, and faster quote turnaround.
Yeah, I get it. Get some wins on the board, build confidence in the system.
Exactly. Phase two is where you now extend FMV from just picking, pricing decisions into real operations decision support, which is usually more complex, not because of the models, but because of the data requirements. You're now tying FMV into your processing, your grading, inventory, and your data systems. And it only works if the data is structured and consistent across all of them. Common IDs, condition codes, locations, timestamps, etc. Once that foundation is in place, now you can start to automate teardown and whole unit decisions, cut line management, routing, even WIP valuation with a lot more confidence.
So is there a phase three, John?
Always a phase three, Pete. Phase three is where FMV really becomes the brain of the operation. At this stage, you're tying the intelligence directly into your routing, quoting, inventory, and sales systems. So decisions are optimized at both the asset and the entire lot level. This is when you create customer-specific models tuned to their business and to your business. Now the platform isn't just showing you value, it's helping you steer each device to the best optimum path, refurb, parts, wholesale, or recycle, and shaping how you bundle and release lots to the market. That deeper integration is what unlocks the true optimization of routing and monetization across the entire portfolio and end-to-end within your processes.
Yeah, and that's the kind of automation we talked about at the opening, right? So it's smart for ITADs to follow a path similar to this. Don't try to do everything at once. You're building iteratively, proving value at each stage.
Exactly. That's critical to get buy-in across the organization, top down as well as bottom up.
And for a minute, let's talk about how the tool could help with performance management. Once you have these FMV benchmarks in place, how does that change how you manage your sales and operations teams?
Wow, this is huge, Pete. An interesting question, too. On the sales side, now you can finally answer the question, how is my team performing truly against the market? Are they operating above the market, at the market, or below the market? Are they maximizing returns, or are they leaving money on the table? Now you can start building bonus incentives tied to objective FMV performance. For example, if a salesperson is consistently achieving 95% or more of the FMV on outbound sales, then they earn a higher commission rate.
Well, yeah, I can picture some of the reactions from the sales reps to that one, but it's a great opportunity. You're aligning incentives with business outcomes. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the operations side, you can get critical visibility. Did the final selling price map to the incoming FMV? Were the assumptions that I made at the beginning of the offer pan out? If not, why not? Did we damage goods in processing? Did the goods come in damaged? Did we miss the market timing? Did processing costs align with the outbound FMV? Or are we spending too much on repair and refurbishment relative to the end value that we're getting when we're reselling?
Overall, these are all the kinds of data points to have to really help drive continuous improvement across the operation.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have that level of visibility, you can start identifying inefficiencies and optimize your workflows in ways that weren't possible before.
John, this has been super fascinating to me. So before we wrap it up, I want to ask, what's your vision for where the ITAD industry is headed? How do you see AI and FMV intelligence shaping the future of the business?
Pete, I really think we're at an inflection point. The ITAD companies that will thrive over the next 5 years are the ones that embrace automation, embrace AI, data-driven decision-making, and strategic service offerings. The old model where you're just processing boxes and hoping for the best, it's just not sustainable anymore. The winners will be the companies that use these AI-powered FMV intelligence to reduce risk, improve margins, and create differentiated services that their competitors can't match. They'll be the ones that walk into an enterprise account and say, hey, you know what? We can offer you guaranteed trade-in values, customize refurbished configurations, and be transparent and provide you with market-based revenue share programs, all backed by real-time, objective market intelligence.
Yeah, and again, that's a completely different value proposition than today's of we'll haul away your old equipment.
Yes, you're becoming a strategic, true IT lifecycle partner, not just a vendor. And that's where real value creation happens for your customers and for your business, driving true circularity.
Yeah, I love the vision, John. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a fantastic session.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Great conversation with John today. I hope you got as much meaningful content out of that as I did. Let's recap the key takeaways from today's episode. First, fair market value pricing intelligence might no longer be optional. It's foundational. You can't run a modern ITAD business on Excel spreadsheets and tribal knowledge. You need accurate, verified data to reduce labor costs, eliminate errors, and avoid catastrophic pricing mistakes. Second, implementation touches every part of your operation. From inbound valuation to downstream pricing, from work and process management to strategic teardown decisions, FMV intelligence becomes a decision support system that drives the ITAD business in the future. Third, FMV tools enable entirely new revenue streams, device trade-in programs, certified refurbished sales with custom configurations, extended warranty and maintenance services. These are high-margin offerings that differentiate you from the competition and move you up the value chain. Fourth, with FMV benchmarks in place, you can manage the business better, optimize your sales and operations with unprecedented precision. You can align incentives, identify inefficiencies, and drive continuous improvement across your organization. And finally, the bottom line, with superior FMV intelligence integrated into your key workflows, you can outperform the market in acquiring new business and building enterprise value. If you're an ITAD owner, investor, or operations leader, I encourage you to seriously evaluate how AI-powered FMV tools can transform your business. The competitive landscape is changing fast, and the companies that embrace these technologies now will have significant advantage. Thank you for joining us. We're here to help you raise the bar on ITAD services and sales issues. If this episode added value, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Until next time, keep doing the good work, keep the circular economy moving, and remember, sustainability isn't just good for the planet, it's good for business.
You've been listening to the Circular Momentum Show. Thanks for joining us. Don't miss our next episode coming soon, where we feature market leaders in the IT asset disposition and reseller community. Thanks to our sponsors, MG Environmental. And special thanks to our guests and Growth Strategy Consultants, Circular Momentum. The Circular Momentum Show is produced and written by